Hey, what's up, guys? John here. My number one piece of advice, something I'm taking serious and putting into use right now in my business and in my life for my family, is a chain of events that I've learned over the last year. We've all learned. Remember when Jerome Powell came out and said, inflation is transitory, don't be concerned, everything is fine, you're overreacting, right? And then what happened? We have rents that went up 18%, consumer products up 6%. We have gasoline up 50%. Everything is going up across the board. Used cars are up almost 40%. Right? The dollar store is now the $1.25 store. McDonald's is increasing their prices. Netflix, Amazon Prime is talking about price increases. What are we seeing here? We're seeing something very valuable, and I think if we don't get a clear idea of it, what's ultimately going to happen is that our quality of life across the board is going to be greatly diminished, almost like a third world country. Because what we're seeing is before that traditional model of save 20% of your income, right? How are you going to save 20% of your income if your income remains the same, right? Because inflation is at 20%. So before traditional inflation at 2 or 3%, you could save 20% of your income, sure. But now what they're saying that traditional wages are going to go up 3.4%, give or take. And with inflation at 20%, the net cost of last year on the everyday middle class, the everyday American, is a negative 16.6%. And we're stepping into a new year with a lot of problems. At least they seem like a lot of problems on the horizon. I would not be surprised to see inflation do what it did in 21, except do it again in 2022. So what does this mean? It means that everyone across the board needs to increase their prices across the board, whether you're a business owner, an employee, whatever it is, whatever you're working on, you need to increase it by 30 or 40%. And you might say, well, no one's going to pay that, right? Well, what you're really saying is the amount of value that I provide to the marketplace is not worth 30 to 40% more. So the real question is, how do you increase your value to command that 30 to 40%? Because if not, what ultimately happens is if the difference was 16.6% of inflation just last year, and this happens again, increasing 30%, all that will do is keep your current lifestyle at 2020, right? And this is what they're doing. So if they can control one's ability to feed themselves, house themselves, and take care of themselves and their family, then that person loses their freedom of control over their lives, and they can't make as many decisions because they have their hands out, unfortunately, given the chain of events that have unfolded. This is something for me, I have a family, I have a son right here, 2-year-old son, I have another son that's 2 months old, I have a wife. These are things that I think about. It's not so much based on, how much did I make last year and how much am I going to make this year? It's the amount of uncertainty that we have to price into the market to make sure that if things really hit the fan, that one has an ability to pivot with the times. And one of the great ways to do that is going to be through real estate investing. John D. Rockefeller said, America, the most fortunes are made in land. Most fortunes are made in land. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing BlackRock come out and Blackstone. Blackstone says that they believe rents are going to go up between 2 and 3 times inflation. That's what they said, 2 to 3 times inflation in certain markets. If inflation is what they said, 6%, which it's not, it's 20, but let's just say 6%, they're saying that rents are going to go up in certain markets about 18 to 20% after they just went up a national average of 18%. So they're saying about 38% of price increases across the board in these markets, right? That will be 10 or 12 years, probably 13 years worth of price increases baked into 2 years. Because what ultimately happens, if these big corporations take over the housing and they increase rental rates so much to where people can't afford to save money, then people become a slave to the house. They work all day and night to pay the rent, right? Nobody wants that situation. Nobody. That's why I'm having this conversation with myself, my wife. I'm talking to this with a lot of my friends about getting that idea of making a certain amount of money as this big picture goal, whether it be 100,000 or a million or 5 million, whatever it is. If you look about how much money has been printed, really look at how much money has been printed over the last 2 years. The concept, that limiting belief mindset that's associated with thinking about achieving a certain goal really needs to be thrown out the window, because this dollar that we have is almost worthless. At least that's the direction that we're headed. We're heading in this direction to where the currency means almost nothing and the assets and the control mean everything. So if they continue increasing prices across the board, and one is renting right now, and their property that they're renting gets purchased by one of these corporations, you can almost guarantee the rents are going to be really going to continue going up, right? This is the message to investors right now, is if you are not making enough money, you need to increase your prices. If you cannot increase your prices, it might be time to pivot to another industry or another opportunity to brace for what is coming, which is likely going to be continued price increases. You need to brace for that. So that way you can invest, you can purchase your own property, you can get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you can keep your costs low, and you can invest intelligently. I do believe we're stepping into a unique period to where we're going to see a lot of companies get wiped out, and we're going to see some really, really big competitors rise, and they're going to look for ways that they can invest their tens of billions of dollars. And one of the best ways for them to do that is likely going to be residential real estate, especially with technology and their ability to manage properties through apps and all of these unique opportunities that they didn't have before. They're controlling shipping and distribution for these big corporations. What you don't want to have happen, and what I don't want to have happen, is where people ignore what's going on. And they're like, okay, I'm making $50,000 a year. Boss said I'm going to get $53,000 this year. Life is great. But then they go food shopping, and food is, $350 or $400 for the week, whereas last year, 2 years ago, it was $150. And then gasoline is $4.50 or $5 a gallon. And these other things continue creeping up. Before you know it, the corporations are getting $45,000, Biden's getting $5,000, and the average American is living on scraps and peanuts. And that, unfortunately, could be a scenario which almost seems almost inevitable right now. That's why I'm saying this. It's a really big moment to think big, to really understand where things are going, so that way you don't get blindsided by all of these really, they're problems, but they also could be opportunities, because I personally believe 99% of people are not paying attention to any of this. They're saying, of course you are, but 99% of people are not paying attention to it. They're like, oh, it's inflationary. This isn't going to happen. It's not a real big deal. And, we'll get through this. Just because in America, we've had so much opportunity. We've been blessed over our lifetime, really with everything. And now this opportunity, these blessings are really going to get pulled. It's going to be a rug pull. And so you want to make sure that no matter what happens, you're better positioned to take advantage of opportunities, and you're better positioned to where no one can take advantage of you. Drop your comments below. Are you going to increase your prices? What do you think about everything that's happening right now? I'm really wondering if prices are going to continue to increase like this year over year over year. One of the big concerns I have is that I'm looking at small business and all of the challenges that they've had to go through over the last couple of years. I'm talking about increased minimum wage. In West Hollywood, California, minimum wage is like $18. They're trying to push a $15 minimum wage, right? It's one thing to ask for $15, it's another thing to be able to afford it. We have increased costs for them to actually get their goods and services. Everything is going up for small business. Everything is going up. So what ultimately could happen is small business could buckle, a good chunk of small business could buckle, corporations could absorb that market share, and then when they have that market share, they can increase prices. And when they increase prices, what option does anyone have? They have to pay. That's the issue. They have to pay. So really, reverse engineering and troubleshooting these potential problems we could be facing is going to do wonders for you and your family. Drop your comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'll see you guys next video.